Derby Cycle is a producer of electric bicycles, or bicycles. It's one of the number one producers in Europe, right?
Exactly. So we are the biggest bicycle manufacturer in Germany. We produce around 500,000 bikes per year, which means 3,000 bikes in maximum per day, which is a lot of bikes.
That's incredible. So Derby Cycle is in northern Germany. I went and visited. At the time, Andreas was the product manager for Focus, right?
I was brand manager at that time.
Brand manager.
Exactly. Yeah.
So Andreas was the brand manager for Focus, and what the brand manager does is basically manages sort of the image of the brand and marketing, and maybe you can speak to that.
Exactly. So the brand manager is mainly in the marketing team, responsible for, let's say, for the brand positioning and the overall big picture of the brand in general. Yes.
So we met at what do you call it? The
Bike Expo.
Bike Expo.
Yeah.
So Derby Cycles does an event that's modeled off of Super Bicycle. Actually, I'm just kidding. It's like Super Bicycle, but they have a spit roasted steer in the middle of the courtyard and beer flowing, and it's just like it's a huge event for retailers and dealers from all over Europe and all over the world. And it's like their open house where they show all their new bikes and and take orders for new bikes. And so I had the opportunity to go to Derby Cycles at the invitation of Focus and Kalkhoff and met Andreas, and we did a little video interview way back in the day. And now Andreas is here in the United States, and he's helping set up and establish Focus and Kalkhoff in the United States, and you're based in Santa Cruz, right?
Yeah, I live in Santa Cruz now, which is different from Stuttgart, where I grew up, definitely.
So Andreas is in Santa Cruz, which is the headquarters now of Focus and Kalkhoff, and we're going to talk a little bit about, I think we should start talking about Kalkhoff,
Okay.
and then we'll talk about Focus.
Sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about the history of Kalkhoff?
Okay, yeah, the history of Kalkhoff is definitely a long one, like our friends from the Netherlands with Gazelle. So we were founded in 1919, so next year we have a big celebration going on in Kloppenburg because Mr. Kalkhoff, it's a family name obviously, he founded the brand in 1919. He is from Kloppenburg. That's the reason why Derby Cycle and the whole factory of Derby Cycle, which incorporates Focus and Kalkhoff, is based in Kloppenburg, yes.
And he was a mailman, right, or something like this?
He was a mailman, and he was riding his bike and doing his job as a mailman. And then he actually discovered maybe I can sell some bicycle parts when I actually meet new customers, when I give them their mails. So then he started to build bikes, and that's how it started in 1919. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And is it the same factory as today, or has it moved?
It has moved, so in the 70s. So actually the place you have visited is the headquarters of Kalkhoff, I think since 72. Okay. So yeah, it's also already an old factory that we have with Derby Cycle, but of course we, like you saw it, it's a big factory now, and of course we needed to enlarge the whole building exactly to incorporate also the other brands that we are building in Germany, because it's not only the assembly line for Focus and Kalkhoff. Derby Cycle owns a lot of other brands that are not here in the US, but we also do the European assembly line for Santa Cruz bicycles and also for Cervelo.
And if the factory is actually quite incredible. Kloppenburg's a small town. It's pretty flat. Everyone in Kloppenburg drives a Kalkhoff. They're everywhere. They have huge bike parking, so all the employees, for the most part, drive their Kalkhoffs right to the factory, park, and go inside and do the work. It's got a huge courtyard in the beginning, and then it has a huge bike riding area, because not only do they build the bikes in Kloppenburg, but they also do all the R&D.
Yeah.
For Kalkhoff, especially.
Especially for Kalkhoff, the whole R&D is placed in Kloppenburg, and the whole quality insurance, all the testing is taking place in Kloppenburg, especially also for Focus. But the R&D department, let's talk about Focus later, but Focus has their own office based in Stuttgart, where the headquarters of Porsche and Mercedes-Benz is, so it's easy to get well-educated engineers that also have a passion for riding bikes.
Interesting. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a moment, but this factory has this amazing test course. So if you go to Bike Expo, which is generally just for retailers, but the point is, basically you can ride right out of the factory and get onto an off-road course and test the bikes out. And they do this when they're doing their research and development. They basically ride, they do tests and everything on the bikes and make sure the geometry is right.
Yeah.
So it's a really cool spot. It's pretty fantastic. I can't wait to get invited back.
All right, let's do this.
So Kalkhoff started in 1919, and it's grown from there. And it's kind of like, I've talked to a lot of Germans, and they know Kalkhoff from their childhood, and it's sort of like the staple bike. I mean, it's like the bike that, it's like we describe it in the shop as it's like your typical European city bike. That's typically what Kalkhoff builds, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you describe what a typical European city bike is and why that's important?
Let's say what a typical European bicycle is, maybe also something that the guys from Gazelle show here. That's obviously a typical Dutch bike. Maybe Kalkhoff is a typical German city bike. First of all, that's a cliche maybe, but it's mainly also color, because German bikes are not really colorful. So that's why we always said with Kalkhoff, it's when you saw the whole model line in the last years, it was 50 shades of gray, because all the bikes were gray. They only had different names. But this will change a lot in the coming model year that Brett is really excited about to see. But we have a lot of colors coming up, and like actual colors like green and yellow and red, and so not only black and gray. But coming to your question, like how a bike looks like, first of all, in the past it was gray or a black, but then of course a super upright position when we talk about the northern part of Germany, where Cloppenburg is based. In the southern part of Germany it's a little bit different, because you have the Alps, you have mountains, so the common city bike actually in the south of Germany would be a Focus in the end. So it would be a kind of a mountain bike, more a performance style bike, because people are more, let's say, active also in their, going out for bike rides, like tours and going out into the forest. And they actually, in the south of Germany, it's more a mountain bike type of city bike. But where Cloppenburg is and Kalkhoff is based out of, that's more kind of a Dutch riding feel. And also, when you look at the bike, definitely a more upright position, step-through bikes, and this kind of style.
So yeah, if you haven't seen a Kalkhoff, they're obviously at the booth here and you can test ride them, but basically it's a step-through bike, really easy to get on and off. It's a very upright ride position with often adjustable handlebars.
Exactly.
And so it's really ergonomic. Like you're not, and typically that sort of bike is kind of a bear to climb hills with if you don't have an electric assist. But Kalkhoff was one of the first brands to really pioneer electric assist. So maybe you can talk about what that's all about.
Exactly. So especially Derby Cycle as our company. Actually, we were one of the first companies that jumped on the train of e-bikes to actually invest into e-bikes.
And when was that?
That was 2010 when we brought our first line of e-bikes into the market. So actually, that was an early adapter, definitely with Kalkhoff and Focus as well. But yeah, our former manager, he was definitely right on the edge, and also had a feeling on the vision, or also he had a vision of what an e-bike can be in the future. And I think this is also incorporated also now with our lineups, where we are now with Focus and Kalkhoff, and what we can show as innovations, because our engineers are super knowledgeable about e-bikes, because they do this since nearly 8 years now, which is for an e-bike brand a long time. In the end, to actually work on these products, and also we have the Impulse Drive that we also sold here in the US, but still sell in Europe. So we actually one of the only companies in the whole market that actually has built their own motor systems, their own battery systems, of course in cooperation with battery manufacturers. But this brings us to the point where we have the knowledge to actually build some interesting innovations, like with Focus now, with the tech solution, with the second battery tech pack. That's definitely something which is unique in the market. And talking about unique products in the bike industry especially, it's hard to find really a USP product or a USP in the end on a bicycle in the moment. Like when it comes to pedal bikes, for example, we don't talk a lot about pedal bikes obviously here, but it comes down to price, color, and which kind of group set you have on your bike. I think the uniqueness is with e-bikes a little bit more like also easier to accomplish when you have the right people working on the product.
So you need people who really understand e-bikes and are passionate about it and ride the e-bikes.
Yes.
Which you definitely see when you go to the Kalkhoff factory, because everyone rides
exactly.
an e-bike to work. Yeah. And as far as the factory, I think that's also a unique thing. That the bikes are not, they're assembled, and the frames are not made in Germany.
Yes.
They're made in Taiwan, but they are painted at the Kalkhoff factory. So they have a very sophisticated powder coating facility on the factory. So that allows them to really, make really high quality paint. You have the painting is better than what you find on many cars.
Yeah.
And you notice that. We have Kalkhoffs that are 7 years old now that are are the quality of the paint. People are running up against like buildings and parking meters and all this, and it's just like it looks like a new bike actually once you wipe away all the dirt.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also something that is pretty unique for our factory in Kloppenburg actually. So we have one guy working in our paint job there, and he's with the company since nearly 50 years now. And what he did for the last 50 years is painting bikes. So he knows he knows every 50 shades of gray in the end. So and he will tell you what the difference of each gray tone is. But coming to the bike, they have a high quality because of the knowledge over the last 50 years painting bikes. They know how to do it right. Yeah.
So let's speak a little bit about Focus. Focus, many Americans don't really know the brand Focus, although it really started taking off about 5 years ago.
Yep.
And mainly they weren't well known for electric bikes. They were known for high-end cyclocross bikes.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with what cyclocross is, it's sort of like mixed. It's like a road bike that you can ride on the off-road, and you do a lot of races and stuff on this bike. So they were known for this. They're known for making very value-oriented, bikes. So really high quality, but not like a crazy high price. Yeah. And that seems to be going back to Kalkhoff actually. That's one of the interesting things about Kalkhoff too. Is it's sort of really high quality, really, but at a price that's really good value.
Reasonable, exactly. Yeah.
It's like make a lot of like Model T e-bikes in a way. Right?
Exactly.
But now Focus is really in the United States. It's almost the main focus, and definitely based on what you see at the demo center here.
Yeah.
The demo fleet is e-bikes.
Yes.
Can you tell me about that?
Exactly. Just coming back to my former role as brand manager, I was talking about brand positioning and so on. That's definitely something which is going on right now, and also, of course, is a reason or something that we roll out here in North America as well. So Focus will be positioned and is positioned as an e-performance bike going forward. In the past, like you said, in the US, we're not really known, and if people know us, then it's for cyclocross and for road bikes. So we had a Tour de France team, second place in the Tour de France 2 times and so on. So we always created high quality products that met all the goals of professional riders on mountain biking or road biking. Founded obviously by a 3-4 world champion in cyclocross, Mike Kluge. He's still with the company. And now he appreciates riding his e-mountain bike because also now he is in a certain age, let's say, where he also needs to have a little bit more assistance to catch up.
Just quickly as a point of clarification there, so Mike Kluge he was a very well-known racing, he did mountain bike racing and cyclocross racing, right? And he started Focus. And when did Focus get started?
He started Focus in 1993. So, and actually that's a difference from all the other athletes maybe that have founded a bicycle company after retiring from the sport. Actually, he was still a professional athlete when he started Focus. So he was also racing in Atlanta at the Olympic Games for Germany in a mountain bike race in 1996 on a Focus bike, which is kind of unique on his own bike actually. In 1993.
So he started Focus, and he's still with the company.
He's still with the company.
And it seems I interviewed him at Interbike last year, and he has a lot actually to say about the bike, and it seems like he has a lot of he has strong opinions, and it seems like it actually follows through on what's on the bike and what's not on the bike too.
Definitely, because he is the founder of the brand, so that's a fact. And of course, our engineers and product managers, they of course have their own vision on the bike. But of course, it's we are a kind of a small family at Focus in Germany over there, and all good friends, let's say, and everybody has an opinion. And everybody is being heard. Some of us less, some of us more. But definitely the voice of the founder of Mike Kluge is definitely a voice that is being heard. And also he has his feedback, and he's still racing on e-mountain bike and doing the stuff. And so Focus is definitely a company where the founder still has a voice to say and also has something to do with the R&D in the end.
So Focus all Focus bikes are made in Germany. And they're made in Kloppenburg in the same factory. And are they painted? The frames are painted in Kloppenburg?
Exactly. Yeah. So all the aluminum frames are painted in Kloppenburg. The decals are put by hand on the frames. You saw that.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting to see, and also pretty unique for a bicycle company to do that actually in Germany, but actually in-house.
So, but the research and development of Focus is down in southern Germany, in Stuttgart.
Exactly.
Which is sort of Motor City. It's like the Detroit of of Germany.
Yeah.
And it's very hilly.
It is.
My great grandfather actually is from Stuttgart.
Oh wow.
And and I went and visited. We still have a few relatives there. And we went and visited, and it's like San Francisco in some ways. It's the main part of the city is down in a hole basically, and everyone's living up on the hills, and so there's a lot of e-bikes. Even though it's Detroit, it's like e-bike central too.
Exactly, and this will grow even more because Stuttgart is working on climate change and all this kind of stuff because we have a minister of the state, a governor of the state in Baden-Württemberg, which the capital is Stuttgart, and he's from the Green Party. Yep. So actually, he's of course against cars, so definitely Stuttgart will grow on e-bikes because they will prohibit old cars to enter the city of Stuttgart. So. Wow. This will be a big impact, and you have three actually companies in there. It's Bosch, it's Mercedes-Benz, and Porsche that actually live from selling cars and having cars on the road. So this is really interesting to see how this also works out in Europe.
Yeah. So and I guess there's a couple reasons why the R&D for Focus happens in Stuttgart. Mike Kluge lives down there.
Exactly.
And also it's where you would do mountain biking in Germany, right?
Exactly. So definitely that was the reason actually 5 years ago to move the R&D, the product team and the marketing team from Kloppenburg to Stuttgart to be closer to the trails, because our guys wanted to test ride new inventions like the Jam Squared and so on the trails right away. This is actually not possible in Kloppenburg because, like you said, it's totally flat. And like I said, it's easier to get well-educated engineers in the area of Stuttgart because everybody is, studying engineering except of me in the end. But yeah, that's definitely one of the reasons.
So, and I think engineering is really what sets Focus apart. And this new line, if you haven't tried the Focus Jam Squared bikes, you really must, because they're, I mean, literally, it sounds like hyperbole sometimes when you say like there's nothing else that's better and it's the best that there is, but that's the truth with the Focus e-mountain bikes. There's, on all levels, in terms of the thought that went into how to build the bike and what was important on an electric mountain bike and what wasn't important, and also just the bike aspect of it. We tell customers that it's like the best mountain bike you've ever ridden.
Yeah.
And that has a lot to do with the suspension technology.
Exactly.
Maybe you can tell us a bit more about the suspension. And you mentioned when we met at Sea Otter that it's a patented system. It's one of the few patented suspension technologies out there.
Exactly. So the fold kinematic system, so the linkage design that we have with our Jam Squared full suspension bike is patented by Focus. It's our design, and there are only a few companies out in the market that actually have their own patented linkage design that's pretty unique. And also this shows how serious we take engineering, that we just don't like take everything out of the box and just put it in our bikes and use whatever other company has invented. So definitely we go the extra mile to make our products in our terms better than the competition.
I just want to just make sure that it's clear. So what we're talking about here is there's on the rear suspension, how you design that rear suspension is really important for the way that the suspension performs. At the end of the day, really what you want is the suspension. You want your rear tire to stay on the ground all the time. And you want to feel like you have lots of travel. So if you hit large objects, you're always on the bike, it's always comfortable, you're always in control. So what you're trying to do is build a bike that you're always in control and you feel like you can control the bike and the bike's not controlling you.
Exactly.
And so what we're talking about with this fold kinematic is basically this two-piece suspension system on the back of the bike that the suspension's connected to, and that is really an important part of any full suspension mountain bike.
Exactly, because a lot of suspension or rear suspension designed bikes, they feel a little bit, when you step on the bike for the first time, maybe on a full suspension bike, you feel too soft in the rear, and when you go over, let's say, small bumps, the bike kind of overreacts. Maybe that's the wrong word, but it kind of overreacts, and you don't have a right quality. Good
it's like riding
quality.
A pogo stick, right?
Exactly. So, and what the fold kinematics does is when you go over these small bumps, it eliminates all these kind of small bumps, and actually works pretty good when you have these like big holes and rocks. And actually, when you want the suspension to work, that's how the fold kinematics is designed to actually work when it should work, and not only when you go on on the road and have these small bumps and the bike is hobbling underneath you.
Yeah, basically, you don't want the suspension to be bouncing all around.
Exactly.
When you're riding just normal on little obstacles. But when you need suspension, you don't want to feel like it's bottoming out. You don't want to feel like it's like you have no more suspension available.
Yeah.
And if you go look at the Focus bikes, you'll see that it's not a standard suspension design, and there's two pieces in it. And that design really, the engineering of it allows it to perform really well in small bumps, but feel like it has infinite travel in a way on large bumps.
Exactly.
And I guess the other part of it is that you can have a really solid rear triangle, so it's lighter weight, and there's a few other elements. Maybe you can speak to the other.
Exactly. So how the suspension works, and maybe you're interested in, we can talk about that on the bike, because it's hard to talk about this in theory sometimes. But you have a guide link and a main link, so the two parts that you were talking about, and they're kind of folding into each other. That's why it's also called fold. But the main link and the guide link allow that also there is a lateral forgiveness in the rear triangle, that it actually moves in the back. So of course you want to have a stiff rear triangle, but you also want to, like you said, to have the real wheel always on the ground. And a bike doesn't go straight all the time, so you have some corners, and you also want to have the bike working into these corners and give you a little bit more traction. And this is how the main link and guide link work, also like lateral.
So we've talked to some really serious mountain bikers that have tried these bikes, and they tell us it's not just the best. It's obviously the best electric mountain bike they've ever ridden, but it's also the best suspension system they've ridden. So it's not like you're getting a compromised suspension system because you bought an electric bike. You're actually getting an amazing suspension system that isn't only on the Focus. That's one thing that's important to note is the Jam Squared is what it's called. So squared is sort of the idea that all electric mountain bikes in the future, or a lot of them, will be electric to some extent, and it's just augmenting it. It's not like it's a whole new thing. So you can get a Jam or you can get a squared version of it. That's the electric, and you're not making a big categorical choice either way. So that's the thinking. I forgot where I was going with that. Anyway, the point is, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The other big part of the Jam Squared is the fully integrated battery,
Exactly.
and the idea that you don't need to take as much battery with you for any given ride. So you don't necessarily, just because you can carry a 700 watt-hour battery with you, doesn't mean you necessarily need to for your hour-and-a-half ride. So why not have a really small integrated smaller integrated battery that's really designed for the typical ride that you're doing, and then when you want to go on these really long rides, you have a secondary battery you click in.
Exactly.
So that's kind of an idea that Faraday is working on as well.
Exactly.
So maybe you can tell us a little bit about why that was, how that came about.
Yeah, like I said, our engineers always think out of the box and think about new approaches. And what we did when we started the project of the Bolt Squared and the Jam Squared was we were looking at how people are riding e-mountain bikes. So we did a survey in Europe at events that we were attending, and we're asking them, how long are you going to ride with an e-mountain bike? Or you have an e-mountain bike, how long do you ride? So mainly it's like between 1 and 2 hours. So 80% of these answers was between 1 and 2 hours. So actually they are carrying a lot of battery weight with them when they go with a 500 watt-hour battery, because that's not what you're actually using within a 1 or 2 hour ride. So our engineers tried different sizes of batteries, and they came up with a 378 watt-hour battery, which is designed by our engineers with our suppliers. That's pretty unique because we are the only brand that was allowed by Shimano using their system but not their battery. So no other brand has this kind of solution in the market. But of course, we have a lot of customers that want to go for a long weekend ride, and then you have the choice to actually go and add the tech pack, the additional battery that you just click into the bike on the top tube, and then you have 756 watt hours, which is far more than you actually get out of the stock with any other bike in the competition.
So you take the amount of power you need for any given ride, and that means the bike without the battery, it's the lightest. It's one of the lightest weight, if not the lightest weight.
In the moment, it's the lightest weight.
It's the lightest weight electric mountain bike, and it's lighter weight than some electric mountain bikes that have carbon fiber frames and everything, and it's a lot less expensive.
Yes.
But Focus is now coming out with a carbon fiber version of the bike, which is going to be out in a month or so.
Exactly. Right? So the front triangle will be carbon, of course, super nice, and also it shows the Focus design language that we have launched over the last years with our pedal bikes, mostly on the carbon side, of course. But definitely, we have a knowledge in doing super lightweight, but also stiff carbon bikes. With having, like I said, we had 2 times guys on the Tour de France podium in Paris. So we actually know how to build a lightweight carbon bike, and we have one engineer. His only job is to create to design the carbon layup of a carbon frame. So that's his only job, and of course that's a job of 80, 90 hours per week. So that's a tough job, but we have guys that are concentrating and focusing actually on specific components and specific projects.
So I mean, I guess the takeaway is Focus knows how to focus.
Yes, we do.
Focus, yeah. So Focus really, we have been it's been outstanding. Like the response from riders is just like unbelievable, and that's people. That's not just people who test ride, but also most importantly, the test ride. Every e-bike feels pretty good on a test ride, but
yeah.
The owners and people who have been riding mountain bikes for just forever. Are like right back at home on something, and it's not a compromise in any way. It's only enhancing. So thank you for working on this for us.
Thank you.
It's pretty awesome, and we finally have like the total kick-ass electric mountain bike that we've always been waiting for.
Yeah.
So it's really exciting. If you haven't tried the Focus mountain bikes, and if you haven't tried the Kalkhoff bikes, you really must. They are right next to the marketplace. They have a really sweet demo fleet, and we're looking forward to, in the future, we're going to be organizing some group rides and some really awesome demo events. You know, riding an electric mountain bike here at Super Bicycle, it's okay, but the way you really appreciate it is you go out and you actually take it on a trail, or you take it on a fire road, and you really, try it in the terrain that it was designed for. And so we're going to be doing that, and it's going to be awesome.
Awesome. Thank you.
So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for being at Super Bicycle.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, guys.